Nothing like a daddy. What's that?
What?
What's that on my back? What? What? You want a hug too? Yeah? You want? Okay, come here. Give me a hug too. Oh, you're a baby.
Science fiction, the great teacher, the great inspiration. It helps us see the endless possibilities of life. So let's be inspired together.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We are not sending out interceptors. We have taken them completely by surprise.
Hello everybody, it's Commodore Jeff. Well, I hope everybody is having a good week, a couple of weeks I guess it's been since we did the last one. So, as I promised, I'm going to do a review of Star Trek the Motion Picture 4K. Don't ask me what the hell 4K means. Okay. All right, I'm just trying to keep up with the Joneses here as it is, and as time goes on, it's even more difficult to keep up with the Joneses. So, I'm assuming that 4K must mean that the quality of the movie is even greater than it was 20 years ago when they did the first director's cut of Star Trek the Motion Picture. So, how it went, how did it turn out? Well, I watched it a couple times first, so I wanted to make sure that I got to really see it all. First thing that stood out was the coloring. It's more vibrant now. It's deeper, and especially when you're looking at the exterior shots of the ship and V'ger and the space dock and Tridock rather, excuse me. When you see those things, it's very pronounced. It's they really bring it out color-wise. So it looks nice. It really looks nice. A lot better than even the first director's cut had come out with. The other thing is the sound. They changed the sound just a little bit in certain areas. Especially, some of the interior sounds of the Enterprise itself. They changed it just a little bit. They raised the volume up on some things. They decreased it in others. Trying to think now. They added a few more TOS series sound effects in the background, which I didn't care. I didn't mind. I mean, it reestablishes the idea that there's still this transition period going on in Starfleet from TOS era into the motion picture, and again, they left the original series shuttlecraft down in San Francisco taking off, but they changed the angle of it flying away, so you don't get to see it as well as you did in the first director's cut. It just flies straight ahead. Before it flew out and kind of curved towards the bridge, and you could get a kind of a side view of it, but they changed it a little bit. So, but it's still there. It's just it moves differently in this version here of it. Which I was like, well, I'd have liked to have seen the side view again. Okay, but that's just me. It's little details like that where you wonder, well, why did they bother changing that for? It was fine. It was right the first way, you know. And oh yeah, the space station that Admiral Kirk beams up to take the travel pod over to the Enterprise. They changed the lighting of it a bit, and they actually you could see the travel pod itself from the outside waiting to be used, where it wasn't there before. And they show it. I'm trying to think now more. So yeah, it's lit differently, but it looks better. If you can like almost see through the windows a little bit better with some internal detail, which is nice. I mean, it gives more depth to what you're looking at on the screen here. And I think that whenever they show Earth in these these recuts here, but I wish they would kind of show it a little bit more than just the dark side of the Earth. I'd like to see them, like maybe the station on the other side of Earth, kind of in the daylight time, so you could see it. But every time they show the Earth, it's always at the dark side of Earth, where you don't really get to see much surface detail. And the reason why I say that is because there's those calendars that come out every year where they show the ships of the line. I don't know if you guys ever bother with that, but they have that comes out every year, and the artistry behind those pictures is really extraordinary. I mean, when they show like planets, ships orbiting planets, the planet detail is tremendous. You could see the land masses, the shoreline, and all. I mean, it's very detailed stuff. I mean, it's almost like they took a picture of a real world. It would be nice to kind of see a little bit of that sort of on Earth, sort of like, because I mean, clouds will cover the details, so it's like, well, you're excused from showing us any surface detail because you got so much cloud cover around the planet, and plus it's on the dark side. So it's like, Earth it seems to be not lit well, so it doesn't really give too much idea that they're so far off the surface of Earth into space. It would give more depth to where they are, because you don't get to see too many background images until you get into V'ger. But V'ger is an alien thing, so we don't really know realistically how big V'ger is. So it doesn't matter to us whether we see surface detail or not, because we can't relate to how far away the Enterprise is in conjunction with V'ger. Which brings me to my next point. Because they did such a tremendous job with lighting, colors, and stuff like that, they also went and took the liberty of adding more surface detail on V'ger itself and the Enterprise. I didn't mind it so much on the Enterprise, but I did have a sort of a problem with them adding more surface detail on V'ger, and the reason being is that realistically, the human eye can only discern so much detail at a distance. And if you take from the angles at which they were showing V'ger, okay, way off, I mean, this thing is miles long, okay, so it's huge. I mean, and if you're like way off, your eye isn't going to pick up, panels, where they're connected and stuff like that. You're not going to see it like that. I mean, you don't even see it like that on the Enterprise when it's at a distance. You can only see those kind of surface details when it's really up close and in your face. But with V'ger, they went and did that on the surface, so it made V'ger look smaller instead of larger, because the further away you are from something, the less detail you're going to see. If you ever looked at a ship sailing away from you on the ocean, you'll know that the further away it goes, the more blurred the image looks, the less detail you're going to see of it, okay? And if it's dark out, the lights even will start to look dimmer and dimmer until you can't see it. And since V'ger isn't really a spaceship, it doesn't have windows, okay? There's no windows, there's no aliens on the ship. It's just a robot ship, like a giant probe. And so you don't have any way to scale this thing. So the last thing you want to do with VGR is to add more detail on the surface in order to, tease the eye into showing that, oh, look how realistic it looks. Well, that's fine if you're up very close to it, okay? If you're up really close to VGR, yeah. But if you're at a distance miles away from VGR, you're not going to see all that, realistically. You're not going to see, the human eye is not going to be able to pick up that kind of detail unless you're using a camera lens, okay? And so I think they went over the top with it. I mean, on the surface it looks good, okay, but realistically it doesn't show exactly, encapsulate the size of VGR, which is, I think, is important, because when you see VGR hovering over Earth, okay, you want to get the idea that, this damn thing is huge. I mean, and it's sitting over Earth, and it's like, remember how you saw the movie Independence Day, and you saw how this thing was like hovering. Remember, it was grabbing the top of the Earth with claws. I mean, they did a good job in showing the scale of this thing and how big it was, okay? And VGR, they should have approached VGR much the same way, to show the way it is from the distance, how it looks, but still gives you the idea that this thing is massive, okay? That it's huge. And that's the thing that they kind of messed up on, I think. I think they did too much surface detail with VGR in those distant shots. Now, it looked fine, when they're flying around it, when it's inside that cloud that it creates, okay? Because it doesn't really matter, because it's cutting off the light. You really can't see that much surface detail anyway, okay? And plus, the Enterprise was flying very close to the surface of VGR, so you can get away with adding any detail on the surface of it if you wanted to. The shots that I'm talking about is when VGR actually comes out of the cloud and it's now over Earth, and they show, the thing coming out, and then they give you all those, glittery panels and stuff on it. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't look right, okay? Because now you made the ship look smaller than it really is. I mean, because this thing is supposed to be miles long, okay? And you can't. And if I was in a spacesuit and actually in the position of where the camera angle was, I wouldn't be able to see all that detail, okay? Those surface details would be very blurred. And you wouldn't really you wouldn't be able to see the actual panels, what they call Aztec pattern rather, on the surface of the Enterprise. There's this Aztec pattern of hull plates that they have on there. Well, you're not going to see that at 50 miles away, okay? You're not going to see the plating that far away. And I got to figure that from the point of view of VGR coming out of the cloud, we're more than 50 miles away from it, because this thing is huge, and yet here we can see all the plating on it, and it's like, well, that doesn't look right. So I think they should have backed off a little bit on the surface detailing, and just re-emphasized, maybe the lighting of it, and maybe some shadowing might have been better too, because it is blocking out the sun in some parts of the surface of it. So you wouldn't be able to really see that much of it, okay? You would just see, kind of like darkness and these big light things, like the spire that comes out and you see the electricity inside of it. You'd see that. But from the, because like I said, it's a probe, so why would it need running lights and all this other shit on it, right? Okay, it's not a man-made object. It's just a machine, so it's only going to, look functional, okay, like a flying R2-D2. It's going to look, definitely mechanical, and it's going to have a sort of an alien kind of design to it. So yeah, that part, was a little bit disappointing, but I mean, it looked nice to see some surface detailing for the thinker of a model builder and stuff like that. You want to see detail like that. If you're building a model of VGR, you want to see all that. But since I'm not, and I'm not really, I'm watching a movie, I don't want to see all that. So, okay, and that was that part. And let's see, I wish they would reinsert back into the movie itself that scene between Sulu and Ilea, when Sulu was trying to show Ilea how to do something on the control panel, and he's fumbling around with it because because Aaliyah's a Deltan, and she has, you know, hormones that drive men crazy, and Sulu's trying to control himself, and Decker's in the background kind of laughing. And I'm thinking, you know, I wish they put that scene back in there, because it's kind of a light moment, you know, and it kind of you know, gives a little bit of how can I say it, a little more character to Aaliyah. Instead of being stolid, she can actually have a sense of humor about things, you know. They left that part out in both those director editions, and I wish they would put that back in there, because I always liked that scene in there. And let's see, the sound quality, well, because I'm watching it on my television, I don't have the ability to play 4K quality sound, so I didn't notice the difference, obviously. I mean, if I wanted to, I'd have to go out and spend a couple $100, I guess, on a speaker that will actually play 4K. And I don't have that, so I didn't really get, you know, a better quality sound. It just sounds the same as the director one. Like I said, the only thing I noticed was that, you know, they raised the volume up on certain sounds and lowered it on others. You know what I'm saying? It kind of blended sounds together. I could pick that up. But as far as the quality of the sound, didn't get that. Only because I didn't have the right setup for speakers and sound in that situation here. Let's see, what else? The ship going into warp, they tweaked that a little bit. They kind of sharpened it some. Which it's still borrowing from the original sound. They just, you know, tightened it a little more so it doesn't sound so, you know, grand. Which is okay. I didn't mind that. Oh yes, there's a scene in the motion picture where Kirk, McCoy, and Spock are talking in a lounge area. Now, if you look at the original, the first director's edition, you'll see behind them in the background windows, and you'll see the nacelle of the Enterprise. What they essentially did is they changed that background, and they actually elevated where they were in the ship, not on the rear of the saucer section, but now they're in the rear behind, just one deck down behind the bridge in the actual lounge, officer's lounge. Okay, before they were sort of in the upper flooring of what do they call it, the recreation room, because remember, there's where Kirk gives that speech to the, you know, not the speech, but briefs the crew on what they got to do in that big room. Okay, well, originally they put the background as being on the upper floor where the windows are, where you could see outside the ship. Okay, there's that upper floor actually has chairs and stuff like that. Well, they took, in the first director's cut, they put the background of that deck behind them, so it looked like that's the room they were in, the recreation room. When they changed the background, they actually positioned that scene in the upper deck, one deck down from the bridge in the back where the officer's lounge is up there. So actually you get to see both nacelles, but they're both lowered to give the idea that we're up higher now than we were, you know, in the other scene. So they actually changed where they were having this conversation. So I thought that was pretty neat, because you really don't get to see, you know, the other side, you know, where they're talking. So you don't really see if they're in the recreation room or not anyway. So actually they could get away with doing what they did in the 2022 4K director's cut, just by changing the background. They actually changed the location of that conversation in the officer's lounge. So I thought that was pretty good, because you know, it give it a little more dimension and more areas of the ship you get to see. You know what I'm saying? Even though they didn't change the actual set itself in any way, all they did was change the background of where the conversation happened on that scene. Instead of being down at the rear of the saucer section, they did it in the rear of the bridge section behind them. So you get to see both nacelles instead of just the one, you know, and it's up and it's lower because they're up higher. So that was pretty cool. They did that. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, they added some. I don't know how they did this unless they went and got the actual actors, but they changed some of the talk that goes over the, you know, the intercom system in the background. They actually added some dialogue from Chekhov in there. That wasn't originally there, but you have Chekhov talking over the ship's intercom system, you know, doing things. So you'll hear some new dialogue that wasn't actually in the movie itself, but somehow they managed to get them to say some things in over the intercom. Like, I don't know if these are, you know, impersonators doing voices, or if they actually got Walter Koenig in there to do some talk. They got Scotty. Well, I don't know, not Scotty, but Uhura says a few things in there more than she had. So I don't know if they actually got Nichelle Nichols to say something. But you know, it's faint almost, you know, because you got all this foreground noise going on, but you can barely hear them saying stuff. So I was like, oh, cool. So they have, you know, actually have them speaking over, you know, the intercom. Whereas in the original version of this thing, it was the damn computer doing all the talking, rah, 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 you know what I'm saying? There was that thing, that robotic voice, male voice was the thing that was telling the crew what to do. But in this one, you got actual people, you know, just telling people what to do or something like that over the intercom, the ship's intercom. So I thought that was good that they add that little detail in there like that. Trying to think. I wish they would have, you know, changed, you know, or enhanced the travel pod sequence with Kirk and Scotty going over to the ship. You know, today, I don't know why. I mean, it still looks like they cut and pasted the friggin' window image on the model itself. It still looks that way. And I'm thinking, you know, couldn't they have done this in a way where it looks like they're actually inside something? I mean, because they do that today with regular Star Trek that's on today. You know, they don't, but, you know, when they do this, when you see it now, it still looks like, you know, the characters are a little bit misshapen or something like that. Like they took the picture and they kind of shrunk it and tried to bend it around the window. You know, so they didn't change that yet. You know, I figured they would get to that and make it look just a little bit more realistic, because otherwise it seems like they're not inside this thing. They're actually in a projection inside the thing, and so it doesn't look right, you know, from when you're looking in through the front window of the travel pod. It still doesn't look right, you know. It still looks like you know, a picture over a picture, okay? And so I was kind of like, you know, I wish they'd have got to that. You figured modern special effects today could have enhanced that some a bit, you know, and make that look a little more realistic. But I don't know. That's just me nitpicking, I guess. One thing they added extra in there, which was like, I don't know why they did that, but when they cut from Vulcan and back to Earth, they have that intro scene where they show the shuttle that Kirk's on going into San Francisco, the Starfleet headquarters. Well, they added like a few second extra more onto it. It's like, well, that wasn't really necessary. You know, just, you know, it felt like they, you know, added it in there just to add it in there. But, you know, I don't know. It felt like it was a part they didn't need to tamper with. I think it was fine just the way it was from the first director's cut. Let's see, what else? The lighting and stuff on the Enterprise itself was enhanced, sharper, you know, like the running lights and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was small tweaks like that, but I suppose if you got a 4K player, television, speaker set up, you know, it's going to look great. It's going to look better than even what I saw, okay? So, was it worth what I paid for it? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was worth it. I mean, it's an anniversary edition sort of thing. You know, like I said, there's just points in it where, you know, like I said, I liked some and didn't like some so much. I had the same with the first director's edition, but I think what it did is it encapsulated kind of what Robert Wise was trying to get to, but didn't have the time or the resources to do it. And some people say, well, I mean, especially William Shatner says, why do they tamper with it? You know, it's fine the way it was when it was originally released. It's like a work of art. You don't go take a painting off the wall and paint over it because you didn't like the coloring of the way it was. Leave it alone. Well, I'm thinking, well, that's fine, but there were mistakes that were in the original thing. Like you could see the scaffolding, you know, or, you know, around the where Kirk is in a spacesuit and coming out of the ship. You could actually see they didn't have time to edit that out, you know. So I'm sure Robert Wise would not have wanted that in there if he'd have had the time to actually do the proper editing, which he didn't get, okay, because there was such a mess involved in getting that movie on the screen, okay, story-wise, special effects-wise, music-wise. It was thrown together because if they were trying to go from TV production into movie production. Okay, and so there was a lot of things that had to be changed around and changed in the pilot episode. In Thy Image had to be rewritten in a movie format, and so there was script changes coming at him as he was filming this shit. So it was a madhouse. Okay, making that movie. So I'm sure that, you know, with all these revisions and stuff, it's closer to how he imagined it would be if he had the time to do it. So I don't mind that they poked around with this one, because it didn't get the final editing it deserved before it was released in the theater. And I think it would have been better if they'd have given him that extra time, but you know, he was over budget, and you know the story, you know what it is. So yeah, so I have to, you know, disagree a little bit with Shatner on that particular movie, because I think it didn't get the attention it deserved at the time it was released. Even though it made a lot of money, you know, it would have been a bigger hit, I suppose, if they really gave him the chance to do what he needed to do with it. Okay, let's go to a commercial break.
It's a battle between two of the top teams in the American League as Minnesota takes on the New York Yankees, or the Los Angeles Dodgers meet St. Louis on ABC's Monday Night Baseball.
First time I saw him, he was a dirty-faced little kid wearing a baseball cap. I watched him play baseball in American Legion and all the way through high school. I called the front office and I said, this kid can really hit. Sign him. He's going to be an all-star. Kid's name was George Brett. I've just seen something else. And let me tell you, don't buy another car until you've seen the Sterling.
Hour hand, minute hand, second hand, sweet. Time is of the essence, gotta pick it up a beat. Cause time is money and money is time. The one that does it faster is the one that we buy. High gear, full tilt, gotta get it done. Quick, bite that food, eat it on the run. Rush job, turn around, speed is now the key. Tell them that you want it ASAP. Get it in an instant, punch and run. Out by 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We live in an instant world. Why not make an instant fortune? Play Fortune Instant Lottery. You could win a quick million.
Good morning. Burger King presents Breakfast to Go. Yeah, to go. Crust sandwich. To go. French toast sticks. To go. Breakfast to go. Burger King, the best food for fast times.
Mike Jackson and Diane Burns tonight at 10.
a super day? Then start with the one great taste that makes a super bowl of cereal. Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Just think of crispy golden flakes.
Delicious, crunchy flakes of corn.
So pure and simple, just can't wait.
Low in sugar, loaded with vitamins and iron.
So good for you, don't hesitate.
For a super bowl of our most nutritious cornflakes ever.
What a super bowl. Have yourself a super bowl. Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Super taste, super good. Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
All right, everybody, welcome back. So yeah, that's, pretty much what I can think of here for Star Trek The Motion Picture 4K. Okay, director's cut. Hard to believe it's been so long since the first director's cut, but it has been. So, like I said, I really enjoyed watching it again. I always enjoy watching that movie. It's my favorite of the Star Trek movies, because I feel like it's more in line with Gene Roddenberry's thinking about his philosophy of what humanity would be like in the future, in the distant future. Okay, I think when you're figuring, well, what does he imagine the future to be? I say go to Star Trek The Motion Picture and watch that, and that's pretty much as close as you're going to get to what Gene Roddenberry kind of envisioned humanity to be like, and what the future is. I think that really grabs it right there. And when you take that idea, which is that movie and everything there, and then you watch the series before that, TOS, okay, which is written by many different writers, you can see how that movie would be the pilot, just like The Cage was the pilot, and so was Where No Man Has Gone Before was the pilot. You get to see, with motion picture and those two pilots, and the Next Generation pilot, those episodes in the movie are closer to Gene Roddenberry's vision than any of the episodes that were made related to those things, okay? Even the other movies that were made after Star Trek The Motion Picture were deviated from his vision, and Roddenberry didn't like, the other movies that came after Star Trek The Motion Picture, and, there was a reason for that, because it was not the way he wanted to see his idea manifested into. Okay, he didn't like, sort of the dark storylines and all the the human suffering and battles and stuff. He didn't really care for that. He just wanted to see how people live their lives in the future, what they do with their lives, what they might do given the opportunity and the technology to hurl themselves out into the void to see what's out there, and what future humans would do with that that ability. They wouldn't go out into space to conquer, they would go out to explore and try to make relations with different alien peoples. Okay, why would it always have to be about them going out into space and finding conflict and battle and stuff like that, when they can get enough of that with the the problems that come up in everyday life for people on the ship? There's still certain human things that concern them in the future that would still be there, no matter how far you go. And you know, that's kind of the drama of it all, is that, you know, you're having a human story in a science fiction setting, you know, and you get to see stories told from on different worlds about problems that we face today and how other aliens are dealing with it, and how we might be able to or not be able to help them in some way. You know what I'm saying? That maybe through the lens of these fictional characters, we can see from their perspective, you know, the wackiness of the problems that this world is going through, that we're going through today, and say, you know, why is this, why are they doing this, and how did our people ever get through it? You know what I'm saying? It's sort of like, you know, we went through this, you don't have to, we can, you know, this is what you can do to change what is, if you're really interested in doing that. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that's kind of what it is. It's not always about saving the galaxy. It's sometimes about saving a person. You know, it's sometimes about saving a planet, you know, but it's never always, every episode has to be about saving the galaxy or saving the universe, kind of thing all the time. Certainly that would get boring if every episode was shock and terror all the time. I mean, that's sort of like, you know, certain science fictions can survive on that kind of a story, but Star Trek really doesn't fit that, because it's more philosophical than it is, you know, action oriented. So I don't know, I feel like maybe, like I said, Star Trek the motion picture really embodies Roddenberry's vision more than any of the other films ever made from that, after that rather. So it's just, if anybody can watch that and appreciate it and like it, I say, well, you may not care much for the other movies that were made after it, but I mean, it's still entertaining to watch, and you know, who knows? I mean, sure, Roddenberry isn't going to like, you know, certain things that deviated from his vision, but you know, I'm sure that he can appreciate, you know, some of the stories from the TV shows that were made. I mean, even though he didn't write them, you know, other writers understood him, I think, and I think, you know, he had some favorites, you know, in the TOS series and Next Generation series. I think he had his favorites. So, you know, sometimes, you know, the writers can get it right depending on who the writer is. Okay, so this other thing I wanted to talk about is about Michael Keaton. I was watching an interview here on YouTube with Michael Keaton that was made recently here, like in the last few days, and they were talking a bit about the first Batman movie that he was in, and how Michelle Pfeiffer was originally picked to play Vicky Vale in that movie. But at the time, Michael Keaton had a problem with that because he was dating her at the time, and then they broke up. And he didn't want to bring his ex-girlfriend into the movie, so they handed that character over, you know, to Kim Basinger. Okay, she got the role. However, when they did Batman Returns, they once again go back to Michelle Pfeiffer to play Catwoman, and Keaton didn't have a problem then, because at that time, you know, he kind of, you know, he was already in a relationship with somebody, you know, and he just, I guess he figured it was okay. It wasn't, the emotions weren't so fresh, so he was okay with that, and so they filmed Catwoman in that. Then, of course, he didn't come back for a third Batman film. They got Val Kilmer. I think Keaton was just, you know, not interested in the story. He felt that they were adding too many players in the film in Batman Forever, and it took more away from Bruce Wayne and Batman, and focused more on these other bad guys. So, you know, they kept adding villains in this thing, so he didn't really like the story, so he said, nah, I'm bowing out of this. So we go, you know, so for years, that's the, you know, we didn't have Michael Keaton back as Batman, and you know, then they did more Batman films years and years later, and so they talked to him now. He's 70 years old now. Doesn't look it, but he is. Okay, obviously I think he's had some, you know, facelifts or something like that, but he looks good, and he's got a lot of energy still. I mean, he was in a superhero movie where he's playing a bad guy in a Spider-Man film, and he did pretty good. I mean, he was, you know, did well, I thought, and I was figuring, you know, they could squeeze another Batman movie out of this guy if they wanted to, and that's then sort of the talk these days in the comic book fandom out there is like, could we get Michael Keaton to come back and play Batman one more time? And I'm thinking, you know, they could easily write a Batman story with Michael Keaton again. They could just say, well, it's been years later, you know, well, we just set the, you know, after Batman Returns, we'll skip Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, okay? We'll leave those two movies out, and we'll just pick up from Batman Returns and go fast forward 10, 15, 20 years later, okay? And say he's sort of retired from wearing the cape and cowl, okay? And, you know, his butler had passed away in that time, so he's living pseudo alone in his mansion. He has maids and stuff like that around it, you know, or cooks and stuff. But he's pretty much, you know, doing nothing. And we could say that Catwoman, Selina Kyle, put away her catsuit and became, over time, an executive at a, you know, cosmetic industry, okay? And, you know, she's a CEO, and now her company is messed up in some kind of corruption or something like that, and it concerns Bruce Wayne, okay? Because he still has sort of like, you know, they talk back, they're still like friends or whatever, you know, or something, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And he's concerned. So, you know, he's trying to figure out what's going on, you know, in his limited way as Bruce Wayne. You know, he still has the Batcave, he still has all this old stuff, but he really can't get everything he needs out of it, you know, unless he actually, you know, gets himself on the ground and starts questioning and getting in people's faces and stuff, which he's reluctant to do because he doesn't want to fall back into that, you know, vigilante kind of mode again. And so I'm thinking, you know, here he is, and he hasn't wore his bat suit in over a decade, okay? Because apparently, you know, he did as much as he could, and the police seemed to be able to pick up the rest, and so he didn't feel like he was really needed that much anymore until this shit happened at the cosmetic place. And this is where we insert a new, well, not a new villain, but a villain that's that we could probably make today because of the computer technology we have, that you wouldn't have to have a guy in a rubber suit. You could actually introduce into this new movie the character of Clayface. Okay, now Clayface is a character, is a man who was using this special makeup, because he was an actor. He was using this special makeup to make himself look like other people, okay? And he was wrapped up with the mob, and shit happened, and the mob got him, and they made him swallow all that friggin' makeup that he was using on his face so he could look like this one and that, and then it just saturated his whole body with this shit that looks like clay, and now it controls him. Whatever he thinks, it manifests on his body. So if he thinks like he looks like this person, his whole body will transform into that person. So what we have is a Clayface who's going around imitating Selina Kyle and deliberately sabotaging her company, stealing her money, doing all kinds of shit to it. Okay, and they got, you know, cameras that show Selina Kyle doing this stuff, but she's saying, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, you know. So what we have is, you know, Bruce Wayne slowly kind of discovering that, you know, this person isn't really Selina Kyle, because he's seeing evidence that, you know, there's, you know, she leaves this sort of mud behind wherever she goes, and it doesn't look like mud, it looks like clay, and clay is very weird because it doesn't, you know, it reacts to electricity in a weird way. You know, it's sort of like like a shapeshifter, you know, like, you know, when they show up like a piece of Odo or something and it moves and stuff like that, you know, so it just, you know what I'm saying? So we pieced together that we have a new villain in Gotham, and it's a guy who was saturated with this new makeup that Selina Kyle's company was creating to give people this youthful look. You just put a little bit here and a little bit there and you get your youth back. But if you overdo it and you put too much on, I mean, your whole face is going to get saturated with that stuff, and now you can shape your face into whatever the hell person you want to look like. Okay, you know, they don't tell you there's a toxic effect to overusing it, because they didn't test it enough or something, you know. And this guy finds out the hard way that this shit actually will ruin your whole body if you use too much of it. Okay, and so I figure that this would be a good way to bring in, you know, Batman again, because now he's got to go try to stop this guy, but at the same time he wants to help him to try to cure what's wrong with him. But you know, having this condition that he's in with Clay's face, you know, and it's tearing him apart emotionally, because he's fighting to maintain the way he looked before all this happened. And it takes a lot of concentration, and he can't hold it for long, and so he, you know, he basically, you know, walks around looking like what I just showed you, like this, you know, big blob of, you know, clay. Okay, and I think, you know, with today's computer technology, they could make something, you know, a character like that. I mean, look what they did with the Marvel universe, with all those characters that, you know, weren't real people and stuff, and they were just like what they did with Josh Brolin. They made him into what's his name there, Thanos. Okay, they couldn't have done that with makeup and a rubber suit. No, that had to be done by a computer in order for that to work. And then of course you look at the Hulk, you know, so there's no reason why they couldn't take this character of Clayface and really make it look live, you know, and real. With the way they do things today with the computers, so it would really be a good you know, step up, you know, for a third Michael Keaton Batman movie. And I think it, you know, like I said, they could get another movie out of him right now, even though he's, you know, 70 years old. If Harrison Ford can do another Indiana Jones at the age he is now, and they can sell it and get everybody excited to see it, then there's no fucking way and the reason in the world why they can't get Michael Keaton to come back and play Batman one more time. I mean, I think the fans would be very interested in seeing him, you know, bring out that car again, you know. And I mean, once you put the bat suit on, it doesn't matter how old you are. It covers all your face anyway, right? That's the, you know, the voice and you know. And so I think, you know, everybody would be really thrilled to have him come back and play Batman one more time at least. You know, I think he could do it. You know, he's come back in a big way in Hollywood. I mean, for a long time he wasn't around because I think he got bored with acting because he acted too much and too many things, and he just made himself sick with it. But I think after he's had all this 20-something year hiatus from Hollywood, he's come back and he's really been acting in some good films, and I think, you know, now's the time to tap him for another Batman film if he's willing to do it. You know, I really think he could do it, because a lot of people, when they see him, that's what they think. You know, they think, oh, I really like doing Batman and stuff, you know, and that was back in 1990, you know, was like, or 89 rather. So yeah, I think that would be a good shot of trying to work a story to get him back into the movies of Batman, you know, because it's like I said, he just advanced the story up so many years. I mean, you could even bring Michelle Pfeiffer back to play Selina Kyle. She doesn't have to be Catwoman, okay? if she doesn't, unless they want to add it into the script that she also puts her cat suit back on again and goes out to help Batman fight this Clayface, or maybe she's going after Clayface to get even for him ruining her career, or her life rather, after all the years that she spent trying to work her way up the economic ladder, as it were, because if we saw her, she was just a secretary, and now she's a CEO. So, there's a lot you can do there, So I think it would be a great way of trying to bring them back into doing another Batman film. And, hey, if there's money in it, right? What's who's going to turn away from that? So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and hope everybody keeps themselves safe from COVID and everything. So I will see you all again, and so take care, everybody.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We are not sending out interceptors. We have taken them completely by surprise.
Because I think that the tradition of an engineer is a Scot. Because all the great motor ships and the steamships of the world were built in the Clyde.